three new panelists. I want to thank Ray, Zahra, and Hakeem for taking their time out of the day to engage with Mason, engage with the School of Business, and representing kind of their different firms. So kicking it off, I'd love to be able to just invite the three of them, just provide a little bit of introduction on themselves, on their firm, anything they feel like they'd love to share. And I can go ahead and start it off with Gray.
Hi, my name's Gray Coyner. I'm a audit principal at Thompson Greenspon. We are a firm based in Fairfax, Virginia. Our five big niches are construction, government contractors, employee benefit plans. We do some outsourced accounting, and then we have a very large tax practice as well. For our size of firm, we have a very large individual tax practice, and I've been there now for 13 years.
Great, thank you, Gray. Next is Zahra.
Hi, I'm Zahra Faridzadeh. I'm a senior accountant with Matthews, Carter & Boyce. I've been with the firm for 2 years. We are one of the mid-sized firms over in Fairfax. We're over by Fair Lakes when we are actually in the office and not all remoting in. We do a lot of, we have government contracting, audits. We have SBIC, so small business investment, tax and audit. So we actually will travel out to take care of those. Do a lot of not-for-profit. We have a lot of real estate clients. We do a lot of tax work for them, and we have audit work as well. So we have a mix between the two. Yeah, I sort of lost myself there.
Thank you. And then last but not least, we got Hakeem as well.
Hey, Kyle. Hey, everyone. I'm Hakeem Khwaja, partner with KPMG. I'm currently in the audit practice, but I've been spending, it feels like, half my time in our advisory practice as well. We perform audits, we do advisory work as well as tax work. In the local market, we have offices in Tyson's Corner as well as Washington, D.C. I've been with KPMG, I think like 18 years. So it's been a while. It goes really fast. And I'll stop it there so we can get to any questions or comments, Kyle.
Absolutely, yeah. Just as one more housekeeping note, we have a fourth presenter, unsure in the 7 pages of attendees. If somebody is representing CitrinCooperman, would you mind unmuting and saying a word or two? Alrighty, I'm just going to assume that they weren't able to make it right now. Great. Thank you all for taking the time. It's great to know a little bit more of y'all. Let's kind of go into careers a little bit more. So I'm kind of curious, how has your career trajectory looked like? What brought you to where you are today? Maybe it was major, you fought around, have you been with the firm the entire time? So what are the different paths? What can that look like for you? If anyone would like to start, feel free to just jump on in.
I guess I can go. I am a very non-traditional, but then I entrant into the accounting world. Although once you start talking to a lot of people, it starts to feel fairly traditional almost. I started off, I was a Japanese language major over at Georgetown back in the day. I've done institutional effectiveness at higher education. I've done annuities servicing. I've taught English in Japan. I've done a whole bunch of different things. And then at one point I was just like, let me see what my father does. My father is a CPA. He was with Coopers and Lybrand back in the day, and then he went private. And I started a coursework and I really enjoyed it. And then I continued and I said, well, let me keep going. And I wanted to become a CPA, and I got my master's over at Mason, and that was fantastic for connecting me with the Mason network and meeting my firm. And also because, I knew my dad. I talked to him. He was in, big 8, 5, 6, how many were they back then? They kept consolidating. And friends, I knew that for me, like, big firm wasn't the right fit. I liked small firm feel because I liked small businesses, and I met my firms through one of these events, and it was fantastic. Like, getting into the accounting field is non-traditionally, but still, like, you hear everyone's stories, like they came from all sides and they brought their own experiences to their work, and it's great.
Thank you for that.
Well, I'm one of the weird people that knew at 17 I wanted to be a CPA. So I'm not normal. So I really kind of pursued that. I pursued an internship. One of our family friends was actually a audit manager, or well, she started at Thompson Greenspon and made her way up to an audit manager, left to become a controller at a company, and came back to T&G. And now she is a tax manager, and she could be a tax principal if she wanted to, but that's a different story. But I always knew about T&G. It was always kind of in the back of my head. And when I decided at 17 that I wanted to be a CPA, and I started taking accounting classes actually in high school. And so when I wanted an internship, I knew I wanted to check out Thompson Greenspon. We had, I got an offer at the end of that period. So I have not been with another firm. And I guess I kind of took a more traditional path. We do have a lot of, we have a lot of staff that kind of echo that story. We have a lot of people that maybe went back to Mason and got the accounting certificate, and because they decided engineering wasn't for them, or we have a couple people that had a law degree, and a great combo is a lawyer and a CPA. You can make some money, and it's definitely in need. But we're definitely a family-friendly firm. So we have a lot of people that we even have part-time programs if you're interested in that.
And Kyle, I guess I'll round out. I was more like Zahra. I started college. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and my dad was a CPA as well. So I think that goes around a lot, where your dad's a CPA. So you're like, hey, I'll do that. My dad's like, you have to have a job when you graduate. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll be a CPA then. But funny, I actually started with Arthur Andersen. I was there for a couple of years. I'm sure you all learned about Arthur Andersen in one of your ethics classes, or another another one. It wasn't the greatest story, and it's a funny story actually. Two of my fraternity brothers, fraternity brother and his wife, who was a sorority sister, worked on Enron. So it was kind of a interesting time, I'll say, in my life journey. So Andersen disappeared. I had to, choose another firm. It was kind of nice because, all the firms were hiring and they needed folks. So I got to go through recruiting again with a bigger bargaining chip. So I picked KPMG because I really liked the couple partners I interviewed with. So that was my path. So a couple bumps in the road. I actually did advisory work for a couple years within KPMG. So I like that. So I kind of flip-flop between advisory and audit. So you have some opportunity there to do that. I know it, and maybe some other firms, you might have a more 50-50 split. I probably have a 70-30 split between audit and advisory right now. So a little less traditional, I think, than a normal audit partner at KPMG. So, but yeah, that's mine. So I was more normal. If Andersen stayed around, I probably still would be, hopefully would be with Andersen still. I don't know. You never know.
Yeah. No, it's fun. It's a funny story to think about how that all works out,
Yeah.
I think it's nice to hear from how there isn't a one straight path. There's so many different diverse ways, and I know a lot of other panelists in the previous sessions have also said the same thing essentially. It's really about those different worldly experiences that can lead you to, I guess, succeeding in the accounting world. And thinking of those different experiences, how important do you feel like internships, studying abroad experiences, things outside of the classroom, how did those play into kind of looking for a career in accounting?
I mean, maybe I'll go first since Zahra went first last time. We'll switch it up so she doesn't have to go first every time. But for me, I mean, I did not internship at Arthur Andersen before I got my first job there. I had another job that, it paid more money. It was in finance. It was more interesting at the time. So I took a different opportunity. And I still had my full-time offer with Arthur Andersen. I still had a great career there for my couple of years. So to me, it's really about experience and, being a well-rounded candidate. You don't have to have an internship to get that opportunity in the company. It just helps. You do have a leg up if you have an internship because you know the people, you know who you're going to work for, and it creates inroads there. It's not like you're going to learn how to audit in a 1-year internship. So you're not like, hey, you know more than the other candidates, but you build those relationships. And to me, it's to get a job, it's really about what skills do you have and what relationships do you have, for those 2 factors. And for me, I went a non-accounting internship route to gain the skills I thought I needed at the time. So I'm sure Gray and Zahra have different experiences.
I think it's great if you know what firm you want to work for, because an internship is, it's a pathway to get a job offer at the end of the internship. But most of our new hires are not interns. I think being involved in clubs is important, being that well-rounded candidate that you were talking about. It's not all about the GPA, and this is, again, coming from a guy who got three classes that I didn't get an A in, but it's not just all about the grades. You need to be a well-rounded individual.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely, internships definitely help. It's not just about like making those connections and getting to know the people is great, but it's also, it helps you learn sort of the work, like what type of work you might be doing, but also just if you haven't been in an office or you haven't had a job, it's like learning those sort of like skill set that's not necessarily like accounting skills, but you get those too from other jobs that may not necessarily be at an accounting firm, or like you said, at a club or an extracurricular. Like you learn organizational skills, interpersonal skills, communication. Those are all very applicable. And sometimes, you know, you might think like, oh, my club doesn't really matter. Just lay it out and present it in a manner that shows that this activity that I do, it has helped teach me a lot of skills that I think are applicable to the workplace. And like in my case, I came from other jobs, other careers, and I was able to apply those skill sets to what I do now. So it's just about thinking about how do things fit. It's not just, do I know what debits and credits are?
Yeah, no, thank you for that. That's a really awesome point that we like to bring up in our offices a lot. And you got to be a little creative in trying to translate what those different experiences look like if they're not very tangibly related to that. You got to spin it in a way to showcase how it translates. Thank you for that. I noticed in the chat there are a couple questions more kind of specific to the firms individually. I'll kind of yield those to when some of the firms will do breakouts afterwards. We want to focus more on kind of high-level career navigation specifically. I do see one question I would love to kind of tie into a little bit. In thinking of the level of education within the type of positions you look to hire, do you hire people with associates, or do you look for that starting level of an undergraduate degree or CPA route? I'm curious the different levels and what does that look like for each of your firms?
I can take this one first. For us, we don't require the 150 hours for a new staff, where we really bring in new staff either as tax staff or audit staff. We'll ask you, if you don't list on your resume kind of your path, what's your path to 150? It doesn't have to be done that first year, but I mean, just like studying for the CPA exam, the farther you would get away from college, the harder it is. Being an audit partner, you do not need a master's of any form, and that seems like pretty standard. Being a tax partner at our firm, if you get your master's in taxation, that is going to boost you, get you a better chance of being made a partner. And most of our partners do have a master's in taxation in the tax department.
For us, and we're also one of the, about, I think, same size as Thompson, we do look for our new hire generalists. So when our new hires, they do both tax and audit when they first come in, and after 2 years, they specialize. We do look for people who are close to having either have their 150 credits so they can sit the CPA exam and get the license, or be close to it. We do have a few exceptions along the way, but they do want people to be close along, because we do highly encourage the staff accountants to work towards that CPA license. I know our outsourced accounting department, not so much, you know, they have their accounting degrees, they may not necessarily be going for the CPA. And if you're going to be like manager and above, you need to have the CPA license.
Then for KPMG, I guess we have a couple of different routes. I mean, for the tax, route and advisory, I mean, it's a little different. The 150, it's more of a, hey, what's your degree and is it relevant? Obviously, and then for the audit route, you need to have the 150 or a path for that full-time kind of hire. And I think Zahra brought up a great point. I think there's often, what's the difference between the big firms and the smaller firms, or the mid-sized firms, or the different tiers. And I think one of the things is really that generalist. With the big firms, you kind of go through a track, and it's, hey, your audit, your tax, your advisory, and you pretty much stick on that track. I mean, I had some rotations into different practices, but we're more of a, hey, we want someone for audit with the 150. We want someone IT to go into the IT route or advisory. So it's a little more, I think, formal of a process. So a little bit different there. So I think that was a great point to bring up. And I think there's pros and cons to both ways. I know a lot of students have questions on that.
Yeah, I know Virginia is a little stricter, and I think someone at my firm was actually behind that. She likes to boast about it, and we're like, oh, you're the reason.
Well, that's great. Awesome. Thank you for that. So I guess thinking of like alternative pieces or additional supplement to education, are there different certifications that kind of surround the field? Maybe it's through like a PMP, or other things that are seen and observed in this kind of within accounting in general that could be beneficial?
There's not too many people with other certifications beyond CPA, EA. We have some people with EAs, but obviously it doesn't really apply once you get your CPA and then your Masters of Taxation. Those are the big certifications that I'm interested in.
Yeah, I mean, oh, go on, Zahra.
Oh, sorry. We have a few who have pursued the Certified Fraud Examiner license or standing. And we have two partners, I believe, are certified financial planners, and they sort of work that into their tax planning with their clients. But,
yeah, and I'll say here in the local market, I mean, for the federal environment, there's some, government certifications, or in the IT realm, you might have a, certified information systems accountant or some other designations, but those are more, I think, after you're hired. They're not, things that you're looking for necessarily to get in the door, but those are things that when you're building your career, you're going to get those other certifications depending on your client or your situation. I think the same thing with the CFE, because I took, an certified information systems auditor exam and some other things, but that was all kind of after the fact.
Yeah, and I think to clarify, I don't think any three of our firms are going to require certification before you come on board. So,
yeah.
Perfect. That's really good information. So thinking of the future, I know we spent about the past 9 months kind of navigating this new work environment. What are some of the major trends you kind of see for the industry as we move forward over the next 3 to 5 years?
I feel like we're still figuring it out, but definitely we are going to be, most of us, remote through the end of this year. And I know that we did surveys where a lot of us, even though we really miss seeing each other every day and interacting, we probably want to be still like partially remote throughout the week. And especially in the Nova area, that commute can be killer. I think it's now going to be more possible because a lot of our clients are having to adjust to being more digital, more virtual. That was a big problem with the smaller not-for-profit clients. Everything was on paper. So for those audit clients, we're getting more virtual and less need to be there in person, and then same with some of the tax stuff.
I think utilizing computer learning, more automation, that's going to be increasing. I think probably KPMG is probably doing a little bit more than some of the regional firms, but we will be there fast if we're not already there. I think a lot of regional firms are getting away from just compliance work, just doing audits and tax, but also doing more consulting. I mean, that's very profitable and a big line of work, growing line of work for regional firms.
Yeah, and I'll echo the comments. I think one is really what I'm seeing is a big impact on our clients, disruption of services. and kind of looking at their office footprint and what is that the right model for them. And it's different by geographic region. If we look at the West Coast, our Silicon Valley office, we're seeing, none of those clients are going back to work anytime soon. And they're actually looking at their office space in the San Francisco area and kind of moving out. So we're looking at the same thing for our office space there. So we're like, hey, how do we go more remote? We used to have offices and clients, even my clients here, I'm like, hey, I don't think I'm going to need, 20 seats at your office anymore. I'm going to go to more of a rotational perspective where I'm going to have people in there, maybe 1/3 of the team for a couple of days and then the other third and the other third, because I think, people are still figuring this out, but, working at home is a drain as well on people and resources. I think there've been studies that, hey, if you're at home if you're more at home for like 3 days in a row, that 4th and 5th day, you're not as productive as you could be. So, what's that right mix? So I think we're going to go back to work, but it's just where and how we do that and how long. So we're definitely going more virtual at KPMG, and it's going to be client by client because it's really the client that drives that. I'm sure at the other firms as well. You have some clients that are going to say, we want you here 24/7. I'm like, yes, sir, you're paying the bills, or ma'am. You're paying the bills, and other clients are like, hey, we don't want to ever see you again. And, you can do everything you need to do, audit, consulting, et cetera, from at home, and it's cheaper. So.
And it varies between industries. Construction, they still want to see you butt in seat. Government contractors and not-for-profits are not interested in seeing you in 2020.
And sometimes it's just the age of the client too. The two that have expressed to me the most interest in having us there are actually the ones in the higher risk group because they're older, but they just like that security of seeing us there. But Gray made a great point that, we are doing a lot more consulting or like kind of advisory and just helping them figure out the PPP and all these new things. Like clients are kind of scared or like confused, and we've been doing a lot of training and hand-holding and helping them out and get through this because it's a confusing time for everyone. And so we're just becoming more and more that trusted advisor. We're almost becoming the new version of the hairdresser. You can't see your hairdresser anymore, so talk to your accountant about what's wrong in your life.
Yeah,
the PPP rollout was so smooth.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I think COVID has a big impact, but the election results and tax reforms or whatever happens with taxes, I think is going to be more impactful to us, to be honest. I mean, COVID is, we're going to ride this COVID until there's a vaccine. It's going to be, evolving, and it is what it is. But really, we got unemployment benefits not, kicking back up. We've got an election season. So it's going to be really exciting, for folks joining the accounting, tax, and consulting industry because we're going to have a lot of work either way. Whoever wins, there's going to be a lot more work. I think that's the thing that, folks say, hey, when there's a bad economy, yeah, there's new tax laws, there's new items, and that's more work for us and more money. So it's a great field to be in, this time of recession-like atmosphere, or I'd say like war-like atmosphere, because I think it's closer to kind of post-war than it is to like a recession, a true recession. It's more like, hey, we just went to war and we're coming out of it, kind of thing.
No, that's very interesting.
More experienced staff the last 2 months than probably the prior 8 months combined.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So Kyle, you were saying, sorry.
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting to think about the cyclical nature of kind of laws, the election cycles, just being in DC, and federal and state laws, and how it all works out to kind of yields new opportunities all the time for this kind of field. Awesome. So we're kind of closing up on our last little bit. I wanted to focus one more question back on kind of the search experience, the job search, the applications and everything. So I guess in kind of your opinions and your experiences, how do you think students should navigate preparing for this job search in this industry right now?
I feel like, at least to me, a lot of it's still going to be very similar to what it has been. A lot of it is, even in the past, being proactive, reaching out to people, reaching out to the firms, the recruiters, making yourself known and remembered. I remember when I was an undergrad, I was just so sure of myself that my application would just stand out, just if I just submitted it and never talked to anyone. And talking to people is how you make connections, how they remember you, is how they mention you to the hiring managers. and just practice, practice, practice questions, anything that could be thrown at you. Talk to yourself in the mirror, you know, because now it almost feels like you're talking to yourself in the mirror when you're on Zoom.
You know, I had an interview with a guy that we ended up hiring about a month ago, and, you know, just check your internet connection. Obviously, we're going to be doing all these over Zoom or Microsoft Teams. If you don't have a good internet connection, or if it's been going out, go to a different place, dress for the job. I mean, we're business casual most of the time, but put a coat on, dress a little bit more formal than you normally would. You know, one thing that sticks out to me is if within 24 hours, because if you send it a week later, it's gone, but within 24 hours, send the thank you note, make sure it's grammatically correct, this correct spelling, that you know, it's just that little push that gets you over the edge. If we're hiring 4 people, that might make you the 4th.
Yeah, I mean, I'll echo both of those. I think you know, in this day and age with the virtual interviews, I mean, just be prepared and confident. And if something happens, you know, I was looking over because I'm like, oh, my dog's going to bark as usual. I mean, we're all human and things happen, but it's how you react and how do you deal with that situation. So just be prepared and confident. If you have internet troubles, just, you know, roll with it and don't get flustered, because we're looking for professionals who are going to work in this environment and deal with clients, you know, virtually or in person. So we want people that are prepared, articulate, and you know, aren't going to be phased when things don't go the way they're planned. And I'd say a couple things. One, I didn't start with KPMG. I had a better relationship and interview with the Arthur Anderson partner at that time. So, you know, I'd say interview with as many people as you can. And make that connection with the interviewer, because I mean, it's a two-way street. You know, I'm looking to hire somebody and I have what's in my mind, but you know, this is your career and your future. You're going to be working for a long, long time. I mean, I went to college for 4 years. I've been here for, you know, almost 20. So it's a lifelong almost commitment. You might, you know, jump around, but do your homework and just interview as many people as you can to make that connection on your side as well. But, you know, I tell, you know, candidates out there.
Yeah, I think absolutely the relationship building aspect, to echo all 3 of you, is really what can make the difference. Awesome. Well, thank you again. I really want to give you a virtual round of applause for supporting this program and helping out, engaging with the students here. Our staff associate, Megan, has posted the breakout sessions in the chat. I'm going to ask her to do that a couple times so it doesn't get too bogged down by all the thank yous. But if you check the chat, all of the breakout sessions will be in there. I want to thank all the participants for taking the time to engage with the program. Once again, I want to thank this awesome panel. Even I learned so much. I always love hearing these over and over again. I always get new little tidbits out of it. So thank you all. Please stay in touch with the chat to check out the breakout sessions for the individual firms and companies and stuff. And also, everybody have a safe and wonderful weekend coming up. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.